Alright. Percents, decimals, and fractions. In other words, you need to be able to go from a percent to a decimal to a fraction in either way. So if I give you a fraction, you need to know how to do a percent and a decimal. If I give you a decimal, you need a percent and fraction. Okay? Seem easy enough? Should be. Now, the reason why you need to know how to do this is because we're going to start probability. And in probability, your answers are given as fractions, percents, and decimals. Every single time. Okay? Very few times will I say only a fraction. Usually it's fraction, percent, decimal. Fraction, percent, decimal, every single time. Okay? So how do I convert fractions, decimals, percents? I have the arrows going both ways because it really doesn't matter which one I give you first. You need to be able to do them all. All right, let's talk about place value. When I'm talking place value, I'm talking about a decimal. So when I have a decimal spot here, 2 spots to the left, let's talk about the 3 spots to the right. To the left, what is the first spot you see right here? It's the ones. And then it goes the tens. Now we're not necessarily worried about that side, we're worried about the other side, but just in case. So we just add those there just to help us. On the right-hand side of the decimal is what first? Tenths, very good. And then? Hundredths. And then? Thousandths. The reason why we need to write them out is because in your homework it's going to ask you for the tenth at some spots, and other spots it's going to ask you for the thousandth. So I need to know which decimal that is, okay? Let's talk about percents. Percents are always out of how much? 100%. Right? Your test is usually out of 100%. Usually no extra credit, at least in math. If I wanted to make 100% as a fraction, how do I do that? It's out of a whole, so what goes on the denominator? 100. And whatever my percent I'm dealing with at the time would go on top, right? So if it was 25%, it'd be 25 over 100. If it was 30%, it'd be 30 over 100, right? So whatever my percent is will go over 100. Now, if it's bigger than 100%, then we have a little bit of, it's going to be a mixed number. But for the most part, it should be less than 100%. Everything we're going to deal with is going to be 100%. Okay? Fractions. N over D. What does N stand for? Numerator. What does D stand for? Denominator. All right. How do you get from a fraction to a decimal? You divide. You can divide to get the decimal. Our fractions must always be simplified. Okay. Must always be simplified. This all sounds very like you've heard it like 5 different times, right? It's pretty easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the examples, and then that's going to be where you're actually going to get a little bit more. So here's our examples. Think of it as a table. Our first column is going to say fraction. Our second column is going to say decimal. And the last column is going to say percent. Now the fraction, remember, is always what? It's always simplified. Your decimal in this example is going to be to the thousandth. And my percent is going to be to the tenth. Are we okay? Question? All right. So we're going to start with example A. I'm going to go ahead and give you the fraction of 5 over 6. 5 over 6. All right, so I've given you the fraction 5 over 6. Your job is to find the decimal. So your job is to go from 5 over 6 to the decimal. How do I get from 5 over 6 to the decimal? You're going to divide. So that's your job right now, is to divide. Did you get a decimal? What did we get? I'm going to change the color so you know that it's one we found and not one that I gave you. So 5 over 6 was given. What did you get for your decimal? 0.833, because it said 1,000, which means how many decimal spots do you need? 3. Okay? We good? All right, question. How do you go from decimal to percent? You what? What's the real mathematical term? No, that's not the real term. Multiply by 100. Which moves it 2 times. Because you're multiplying by 100. So we go ahead and multiply by 100. What is our percent? 83.3. Do I need that 0.3? Yeah, because it says it needs to be to what decimal? It says it needs to be the 10th. So if there is no 10th, I need to make it 10th. Does that make sense? Oops, I wrote down the wrong color. We good? Questions? So from here to here we divide. From here to here we multiply. Yeah? All right. Now, let's do it again, but let's do 0.36 as your decimal. If I give you the decimal, it doesn't have 3 decimal spots, that's okay. But if you're solving for the decimal, you have to have the 3 decimal spots. Okay? So now your job is, let's go ahead and find the percent. Let's go ahead and find the percent. So what do you get? $36.0%. Why do I need the 0.0? Because it said the nearest tenth. Since the nearest tenth, I need to make it a tenth. In order to make it a tenth, you got to add the 0. Okay? All right. How did we do that? We multiplied by what? By 100. How do you go from the decimal to the fraction? It's over 100. This spot right here is what? What spot is this? The hundredths. So you're going to put it over 100. If it was thousandths, then I'd put it over thousandths. Do you understand? If it's tenths, then I put it over 10. But it's the hundredths, so I'm going to put it over 100. So you're going to put over 100. Okay. What number goes on top? 36. Wonderful. But I can't leave it 36 over 100 because at the very top it says I have to have a simplified fraction. So how do I do that? Simplify by what? Okay, divide by 2. 4. What do we get? 18 over 50. Some of you are sitting there, and there's these lovely yellow things called calculators. All right. Now what? Divide by 2 again. What do you get?
29 over 25.
Yep. Remember, second semester. Grades are done. You don't do your homework, you have what tomorrow? Enough. Yeah.
Because we have a 0 in this class.
Yeah. You turn in your homework tomorrow, you have a?
A plus plus plus.
You don't turn in your homework tomorrow, you have a?
We're in second semester.
Yeah, remember that? All right. Here we go, last one, 44%. 44%. I don't have to if I'm giving it to you. Ready? Okay. My suggestion is to go from 44. Give me a decimal, or fraction. What are you going to put 44 over? Over 100. Because the percent is always out of how much? 100. So I'll put it over 100. All right, so now what do I do with that? I can't leave it like that. I have to do what? Simplify. So what do you get when you simplify? Divide by 4 and get what? 11 over 25. Good. Now what? Make it a decimal, so now go this way, make it a decimal, which means we're going to divide. When you divide, what do you get? 0.440. Why do you need the last zero? Because it's in the thousandths. Couple questions for you. What is the rule for adding fractions? What's the rule to add fractions? Same denominator, which is the bottom number. When you add them, do you add both top and bottom or just top? Just top. When you're multiplying fractions, what's the rule? Multiply top and bottom. Okay? There is really no rule. Now, when you get your homework, and your homework is going to have you do this at the top. It's going to have a nice little chart for you to fill in. Then it's going to have you add fractions. And it says, give me the answer as a fraction, as a decimal, and then again as a percent. Okay? And then at the bottom, it's going to say, here's this decimal, round it to these different spots. Now make it a percent and round it to these different spots. So you have to read what you're doing. It's really not that hard, but it's asking all three of them multiple times. Do you understand? Questions? All right. So, yep. You still need summaries and stuff, but your homework should be fine. If you feel like there's not enough room, you can write on paper or on the back, I guess. But for the most part, it's